Hello, welcome, happy Monday. I'm Matthew Widget from Go Narrative, and I'm the founder and CEO and formed Go Narrative to help leaders and entrepreneurs tap into and take advantage of this thing that we all hear about all the time, storytelling, and to do that in a way which doesn't require learning storytelling. Storytelling is this thing, this kind of amorphous thing we hear about all the time, right? And there's all these tips floating around there, hero's journey, there's stuff from Hollywood. We think about it in terms of getting ready to do a presentation. We think about it maybe in terms of marketing campaigns, and we use it to varying degrees of success. And a part of the challenge that I discovered when I started getting into this space is a couple of the things I just mentioned: Hollywood, hero's journey, and looking to those for functional support to do something very different to making a movie or writing a book. And in fact, is great as the hero's journey is great as all of the work done by Joseph Campbell and others in the space, analyzing and understanding years and decades and centuries and millennia of storytelling, of entertainment, of literature. As great as all of that is, those aren't the only types of stories that are out there. And the stories that you encounter in your business on any given day aren't necessarily about some big heroic lift, some big heroic success. Sometimes they're more subtle. Sometimes they're about the challenges that we encounter in our business. And it's those challenges that I want to talk about today. So, like I said, got into this space 2012-ish, and rapidly realized that there was opportunity for more help in this space. And it wasn't until I left corporate America and formed Go Narrative that I really got stuck into decoding this and figuring this out for you. I think a part of this is my own needs, right? When I'm trying to apply this to help you or whoever it happens to be with storytelling, I need a process. I need a framework. I need something that's going to help me go through step by step. Maybe that's just me, probably not. Maybe I fall into a group of people that just desperately needs frameworks and steps to go through to successfully apply things, whether that's the type of schedule that I've got in my day, whether it's a approach to managing email or storytelling, right? So I built these things to help myself, and in doing so, I've actually created this thing here, the Storytelling for Action Playbook, which not only uses what I just mentioned, the frameworks and so on, but it uses those in a way that I and my team have learned in applying to actual real world engagements, workshopping, coaching, consulting, taking folks from a place of confusion and not knowing how to position and talk about what it is that they want to talk about to a place of clarity and confidence and strength and repeatability, right? And one of the things about business, repeatability, if we can build that repeatability in using things like frameworks, then we can rapidly accelerate how we approach things. I think of, when I think of that, I think of Henry Ford, I think of the production line of the automobile and what that represents as a metaphor for these types of endeavors. And so I mentioned we're going to look at difficulty today. So this thing here, which happens to be this playbook, and it's not a chapter book. It's not chapter after ideas and tips and advice and so on. It's a practical book. It's actually a workbook, and it's actually right now why there's only the paper version on Amazon. Let me know if you think an electronic version without the worksheets would be valuable to you. But the reason why the paper one is so powerful is it enables you to sit down with your thoughts and a pen and connect with the story that you're trying to tell, break it down. I don't know about you, but I love getting away from the computer. I love being at the computer. There's so much we can do with the computer or a phone nowadays, but I love getting away from it. I went for a walk this morning, a nice long 50-minute walk, and I was just clearing my head, away from screens. Glasses were off. No, not even listening to any music. I was actually just chatting with my wife about this. I was like, I love podcasts. I love music. Sometimes I just got to get out there, completely disconnect. And that's why I wanted to create something that you could sit down and really disconnect from all of those distractions and connect with the ideas that are in your head. And what that means is I can actually, a couple things. There's obviously a paper version here. There should be no surprise that I've got the PDF version here, so I can fire that up and share that with you here. So you'll notice there's a little bit of preamble in the book here, but we rapidly get into talking about how it works, and then we rapidly actually get into the plays themselves. You can actually get the first play, by the way. If you go to gonarrative.com, you can grab the first chapter and you can use that right immediately. You don't have the benefit of having it on paper, but at least you've got the PDF that you can sit down and jot some ideas down with. I certainly would recommend ordering a copy of the paper one so you can do that, disconnect from all the distractions and reconnect with the story you're trying to tell. A couple of days ago, we talked about desire. We talked about this first play. I mentioned how each one of the plays has got these 6 steps, repeatability. You're going to see 6 steps for each one of these plays. And we talked a little bit about the moves and the recommendation on the moves. And we'll obviously go into this in a minute, but not for the desire one, because today we're going to be talking about difficulty. And like I mentioned, right, heroic lift, heroic journey isn't always the case with a story. There are a couple of things when it comes to storytelling that are always the case. Really, the 2 that I want you to remember are person and a problem, right? And problem itself, you kind of pack some stuff into that, right? We all hear people say, oh, there's a lot to unpack there, right? There's a lot to unpack with all this stuff you just shared with me. There's a lot to unpack with this. There's a lot to unpack with a problem, but there's something simple to unpack, and that's before the problem was resolved and then after the problem was resolved. What does that represent? Pretty simple, right? It's change, right? Change from before to after. So change is at the heart of stories, and change happens because we overcome something. That could be a really, really big problem, a really, really big challenge, or it could be something that is a conceptual or a lifestyle or a role thing that we're dealing with. Picture it: you're the CEO of a company, and you recognize that you need to get better at coaching your team, right? And so you're going to go through that change. That's a problem you've got to deal with. And so you take whatever the problem is, right? It could be that. It could be you could be running a marketing campaign. You could be looking at your data from that marketing campaign, and you could see that we're not getting the kind of conversions that we thought, right? There's a problem there. How do we overcome that problem? Each one of these things, whether that's the CEO or the director running the marketing campaign, each one of these things is an opportunity to tell a story. And that's the beauty of starting to think about these things in their basic terms, is you can take that basic thing and then you can go and use it as a filter to look at the world. And so in this case, with the 6 steps here, let's go ahead and let's have a look at them. So we've got number 1, what is the immediate blocker? Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. What is the immediate blocker? What is the immediate blocker to getting to that desire, right? So difficulty comes after desire with our nice, simple 3D framework. Desire, you want something, difficulty, something stands in the way. Denouement, how do you untangle that knot? I love that French word. Yes, it does get used in theater and movie terminology, but I love it because it means the untangling of the knot. So we'll talk about that in the next stream later this week. But here we've got difficulty. So what's the immediate blocker? Is there something obvious? We go back to that CEO example who's recognized they need to get better at coaching. What is that immediate blocker? It might be directly related to the thing, or it might be functional. It could be adjacent to that thing, right? So pure time, needing the time to spend working on my ability to coach my team better, right? That could be an immediate blocker. Number 2, as they start towards the promised land, I love Justin's illustrations that he did for us today. As they start towards that, what are the roadblocks to success? What are the challenges that are going to cross their paths, right? What are the challenges that are going to crop up along the way? Here we've got this dragon, right, standing in front of the knight who's trying to get to the castle. The third one, which is kind of the classic when we think of stories, is there a villain? Is there an active entity that is pushing against us or the thing that we're trying to do? It could be a person, it could be a company, it could be some other entity, it could be a functional group or a standards body or a government or even a regulation, right? So then we look at number 4. What's number 4? What other things are required here as a part of the whole solution? What other things are we going to be able to tap into and figure out, how to get through this difficulty? Number 5, what about the internal blockers? The CEO example, if we look at it from a different perspective, it could be maybe the CEO doesn't realize that they've got a problem. Maybe the story's a little bit different, right? If it's a CEO who knows they've got a problem and they're actively going after solving it, there's a story, there's a specific story there. If, however, a CEO doesn't necessarily recognize that they've got this problem, then there's an internal blocker, which is the ability to even recognize that. Or it could be a hang up about something, or it could be a prejudice, or it could be an assumption. What is it inside? Inside a company or a team, it could be a process. It could be a promise or a commitment that was made to somebody else. And then number 6, are there any external factors or risks that are slowing progress down? So each one of these plays goes through 6 of these steps, and each one of these steps then has moves. Oops, try not to go too fast there. So here you've got the different moves that you can go through, right? So a couple of things. Too busy, look at that. Immediate blocker, being too busy. That's a really nice fit for the CEO example. I want to take a pause for a second here. Matthew, are these things the only things that there could be out there that could be a difficulty that's standing in the way of success? No. And in fact, the reason why I created these moves is to give you a prompt. It's to help you think through what it is about what you're doing and what story you're trying to tell, and to give you some prompts to help stimulate your creative juices, because your story is going to be very specifically what you're trying to tell. These, however, are thought starters. In some cases, it might be a perfect fit, right? So it could be company culture, could be the absolute perfect immediate blocker that's standing in the way of our character who's going through this experience achieving what it is that they want to achieve. If that's the case, hurrah, fantastic. I've helped you even quicker than I could have helped you otherwise. You might look at this list and you might say, perceived high cost. Nope, that's not the problem. Lots of options cause analysis paralysis. Nope, not the difficulty that we've got in this case. Lack of social proof. No, not relevant. Too busy. No, not relevant. Approvals process. That's also not the thing that we're struggling with. Company culture. Nope, shaking my head again. And you might have that reaction for all of these. That's okay, because every single difficulty for every single problem and every single story in the entire history of humanity and all the human history yet to be made isn't captured here. These are prompts to help you think these things through. So, second one, again, not necessarily exactly what you need, but if it's not exactly what you need, it should be a prompt to help figure out what you need. So we'll just kind of look at a couple of these examples. I'm not going to go through every single one. So as the character in your story is started to go through their journey, maybe there's integration challenges with a technology or a service or a solution or an offering, and there's problems connecting these things together. That can be a real showstopper. It can be a real roadblock into getting to where you want to go. You just can't get these things working together. I mean, there's literally whole businesses built out of this idea, right? Zapier, however you want to pronounce it, I'm probably pronouncing it completely wrong, is a way of connecting different systems together, right? Because not every system has got an integration with every other system. Complexity. So here we've got a bit of a different perspective, right? So the integration challenge is quite specific. Complexity, that's pretty broad. That's a pretty broad concept. And it could manifest in different ways. It could be complexity of all the different solutions you currently have in place in your business. And that could even relate to an integration challenge. Complexity in your team, complexity in your business across multiple geographies. It could be complexity in many different shapes and forms. Let's go ahead and jump to the third one here. Specific villain. This could be a person. We've got manager, another team, disgruntled colleagues, or it could be something a bit more ambiguous, such as internal politics, right? And then let's have a look at what other things are required as a part of the whole solution. Specific devices, right? If we don't have that, that could be standing in the way of us achieving what we want. Considering internal blockers, lack of confidence, lack of skills, trust, fear, these are all human attributes and experiences that we go through that can stand in the way of us living the story that we want to live, personally or for our business. And then number 6, we'll have a look at just a couple here. So are there other external factors? Let's see. So we've got some specific ones like cyber risks or attacks. We've got more general ones like geographic factors, demographics. So which difficulty does the character in your story have? When you think about these things, what comes to mind? Remember, you don't have to think about that central character as being a hero. It could be your customer. It could be the buyer at your customer. It could be a colleague or a manager that you're working with. However, what I would encourage you to do is look to your own story. Okay? We're all living our story. Good example of that is the stories we tell about our past, our history, were at one point what we were living, right? Just so happens that right now we are living a part of our story. So when you think about your story, what is standing in the way? What are you working on today, this week? What's on your must get done for the week? I literally just finished this myself for my weekly planning, which is what are the most important priorities to get done for the week? 'Tis the season, and the kids do keep bringing colds home from school. Kids, or another way of viewing them, as petri dishes. It's a difficulty. If you're ill and don't have the energy to get things done, that can be a difficulty getting things done. So look to your own story and think about what the difficulties are. Now, what did I say about why I love the paper aspect of this? Disconnecting, right? And being able to have a worksheet that we can actually work on. So here we go. Let's actually look at it like this. So in this case, we've got the worksheet here. Do annotation, grab a pen, make it a bit bigger there. So let's imagine a story that we might be seeking to tell. Why don't we look at that idea of the CEO that recognizes that they've got to get better at coaching their team? Why might we be thinking this? Maybe we've got a product that helps with internal executive to employee development. Maybe we have a service that helps. Maybe we literally provide coaching services for executives. So let's imagine that's the business that we're running, right? And we've already thought about the desire, the desire of the CEO, the leader of this organization, could be to have a better culture and to inspire confidence in and with their employees. It could also be to attract and retain new talent, right? These could be some of the desires. So as you think about what are the immediate blockers that are getting going in pursuing the desire, and if you remember, we had the prompts on here. So let's have a look at those. Too busy. That could be the case. So we could literally jot this down. Maybe I'm too busy as a CEO and just got a lot on my plate. We all have a lot on our plate, don't we? Okay, so then as we start thinking that through, okay, so too busy, a lot on our plate. Maybe we want to think about it a little bit more specific. Maybe we think about lots of priorities. Lots of priorities. That's a funny word, isn't it? I've been reading recently about this idea of priority and setting a priority and having a priority. That over the past, I think it's like the past 50 years, we've shifted this concept of multiple priorities. Kind of diminishes the idea of a priority, doesn't it, when we've got all these things? That relates to a lot on a plate here, but it's certainly a part of the story that we could tell, right? And the CEOs that we'll be talking to and with our story would recognize it. Okay, so what's the immediate blocker to getting going? And let's operate under the assumption that our character in this story is aware that they've realized that they've got to do something about this. What other immediate blockers could there be? Can you think about what those might be? Let's see. Immediate blockers could be. There could be one which could be, I think I know it all, right? That's in conflict to what I just said about recognizing that I need to do something, though. So that wouldn't be appropriate in this story. Immediate blockers. I think those are pretty good. I'm busy. My priorities are just absolutely jammed. And maybe there's an external pressure right? So how does that connect to these other elements? Are there external factors? So maybe there's commitments. The thing that's in my head on this one is prep for an event. Maybe there's a big event coming up. Maybe there's a customer tour, travel. Customer tour. Okay, so that's some specifics for the busy aspect, right? What about the other ones? As they start towards the promised land, what are the likely roadblocks? Remember what we had over here? Integration challenges, complexity, large amount of time required to deploy, integrate, or get running, permission or access levels. Those will sound fairly application-esque, but in this case, I think we've got the complexity might be, I've got a big team. Let's add diverse. And if I want to provide this level of coaching improvement to my whole team at least, and maybe another part of that is I start to think about scale. CXO -1. So how do I coach my CMO, my CFO to also then coach and provide improved support and encouragement of the teams? If I want to do that, there's probably a reason for it, right? I want to improve the culture. And so here we go. I've got to think about the connections, right? And that's why we said complexity, right? So that fits in perfectly with that one. Is there a specific villain, a person, a company, an entity that can slow them down? There could be resistance within the organization. There could be, maybe the CEO is new. Maybe you're the story you're seeking to tell. The market you're going after are CEOs who are new to their company within the past 6 months. There could be internal resistance. Wonderful spelling there. Okay, what are the other things required as a part of the whole solution? Maybe there's KPIs that need to be set up. Maybe there's a training for executive coaching. And this could, even if we're not selling the executive coaching services, it could be a part of that solution. The KPIs makes me think of, okay, so if we've got, if we are offering an app or some type of service that's got an actual product behind it, that yes, we might recognize that exec coaching is a part of it. We flip that around. Then if exec coaching is core, maybe there's a product we recommend. Maybe there's products, apps, services that could be used. So in this case, it's probably going to be like one, actually, I'll say it's probably going to be this or this, unless you're offering both, which could be the case. And then KPIs could fit into both of them as well. And then considering the internal blockers, what do they lack in ability or skills that could stop them? This could be a self-awareness. I know we said that they've come to the realization. Self-awareness could be quite complicated though. So maybe there's a kind of like you don't know what you don't know, the blind spots. This could be something along the lines of inclusive. Maybe there's a potential blind spot there. We want to make sure that as we're constructing the story, that we want to integrate the fact that this could be something that maybe folks are facing as a problem. So there we go. So here we have the example of moving as we move through the playbook, as we've had a look at the moves for this section, and we're starting to actually write down these ideas, and we've worked through thinking about what that difficulty is, and we built on that. So we built out on the desire, and now we've got the difficulty. And then the next step after that is going to be moving into the, how do we untangle that knot, right? How do we apply the solution? What are the elements? What are the results? What are the great things that are going to come out of this? And so that's today's little, how we can use this tool here to start putting these stories together. And I hope you've been able to see as well how these steps that you get to go through within the playbook help you start to extract these elements that you can then use in the story. What that's going to do, it's going to help you break through writer's block, right? It's going to help you break through storytelling block. There's something magical about processes, and it's why we end up not just creating processes, but tools that automate a process, is the beauty of being taken on the journey. Somebody there to help us step by step. And of course, when we're doing a workshop, we dig into this, right? We use these tools to go through and work with our clients to help them extract that and apply it. But I wanted to be able to provide this beyond the workshopping, beyond the coaching. And so that's why I put together the book, so that you could take this and do it yourself. And of course, we're always here to help you apply it and to take it to the next step. So what do I want you to do? I want you to go and download the first play, the 3D story framework, so you can start to then take your ideas and jot them down. You'll have the PDF. You might want to, I would recommend grabbing a notebook or a journal and sketching these ideas out disconnected. Print off the PDF and sit down, on your favorite park bench and work through these ideas away from the distraction. So that's your homework. And the other thing I want to point you to is, if you get stuck when it comes to the theme, the kind of heart and soul of the story you're trying to tell, we have another little process thing to help you out, and take about 10 minutes of your time. We've got 14 questions in this assessment that will tell you what your story type is. And your story type is one of 7 story types that you will discover by answering these business related questions in the assessment. And by doing that, it's going to give you a sort of grounding, a place where you can use as a filter and a lens, is how I like to think about it. So the filter being only looking for stories, anecdotes, jokes, whatever the storytelling mechanism, the metaphors, or whatever it happens to be. Use a filter to pick the ones that match with your story type, and then as a lens to help you focus, right? Focus all the stories in that direction. And I was going to show you the high level of what this looks like. So these are the 7 story types: challenge, pivot, the catalyst, innovation, improving experiences, changing perceptions, and growth mindset. These are all mapped loosely to change management, and they're what we see businesses going through. And that change, which is a big part of every story, is represented here. And so every company is going to find itself at some point on this cycle. And yes, they are steps. And yes, you can sometimes jump from one side to the other. So it kind of depends what your unique situation is. But if you take the business story assessment, you will discover what your story type is. If you want to take it to the next step, you can book some time. If you do that, we'll talk you through your dominant and your supporting story types and help you think about how you could go and apply that. And of course, we can always help you with that as well. So if you get stuck thinking about what that thematic element is for your story, then make sure you're taking the assessment as well. And that will give you that hook, that grounding of a theme, filter, focus that you can use when you're putting your story together. And you can use the playbook to then extract all those little bits and pieces that you need to then go and tell your story. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm super excited to hear how you get on. Let me know, right? Let me know what questions come up. Let me know what your story type is. Let me know if you want to chat about that. And I'm gonna make sure that you've got the link to our website and stuff here in a second as well. So gonarrative.com/story type, and then you can also find the playbook, the first play, all up on the website. Until next time, tell stories and have a great day and a great week. I'll see you soon.